days and seminars to get kids excited about water, and hopefully they stay excited about water so they can replace some of us in our seats in the future. Tina has worked in the natural resources area for 30 years. She has been the State Water Commission Education Resource Manager since 2012. Her primary focus is getting water education to youth and to communities to these water festivals I mentioned. And she also hosts formal educators workshops and trainings and helps deliver curriculum-based water education through Project WET. So she does have a PowerPoint that I guess I have on my screen for you.
Lance, I think I can share my screen. So
okay. That'll be easier for me. We need to make you a co-host, and I think you could share your screen. So you are, so you should be able to do that now, Tina.
Hey, no, that's why we thought this would be a problem.
It's giving you security issues?
Yes, I apologize. So if you can bring up that.
Yes, I can do it for you.
Or the PDF, that'd be great. I'd appreciate that. There it is. Perfect. Well, first, I'd like to thank everybody for allowing me to take a little bit of time and talk to you about Project WET and the water education program that we offer here in North Dakota. As I was listening to the other presenters prior to my presentation, it really dawned on me on how important it is to have this water education and introducing it to our youth at a very early age and then bringing them through the process. It's a very dynamic, water is very dynamic, and it impacts our everyday lives often. And having a better understanding, like Lance said, we're going to have better stewardships in the future. So Lance, if we could go to the next slide, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Or do I have control? No.
I should have control, but can I ask you, Tina, do you see your main slide, or do you see your 4 slides?
I see all the slides.
Okay, that's not what you want.
Lance, this is Kim. Sometimes if you click that enable editing button on the top there, that might allow you to advance.
There you go. Now it looks good.
All right, here we go. So what is North Dakota Water Education Program? Before I go into that, I'd like to give a little historical perspective. In the 1980s, in collaboration with the foundation and other agencies throughout the state, there became awareness that we needed to get water education to the youth as early as possible and build on that knowledge so when they did become adults and citizens in our communities, that they have a clear understanding of the impacts of water, not only on their daily lives, but in their community, on their state, their country, the world that they live in. So with that, Dennis Nelson, who was in the position I'm in now, was actually charged with creating curriculum that would get that information into the classroom. And actually Dennis was pretty good at it. And he was able not only to take it on a national basis, and by the way, we have Project WET in all 50 states in the United States. He has grown the program into an international program. And it started right here in Bismarck, North Dakota. And Project WET is the leader in water education. And they're recognized internationally, not just nationally or locally. It would be remiss of me not to mention that Dennis has retired from Project WET and has resumed his life in Devil's Lake. And so he is returned back to North Dakota, and he's really enjoying retirement, but he's also a strong supporter on continuing water education and getting it out to the public. So what do we do with it? We raise awareness, and we try to come up with practical solutions that will to our water issues, regardless of whether it's access, drainage. You know, we are so used to just having water. We don't even think about where it comes from. Where does it go when we're done with it? That water that I use today is going to impact the water that you use tomorrow. And so that's what the water education program is founded on. Next slide, thanks. So this is really important too. Water education, or Project WET, and WET standing for Water Education for Teachers, is how it was first founded. But I'm glad to mention today that this summer, WET has changed from Water Education for Teachers to be more encompassing, and now it's Water Education Today. So it's not just for teachers. A lot of people get hooked up on that. When I say, oh, we provide water education, no, they're like, well, I'm not a teacher. We all are teachers, every one of us, whether we do permits or appropriations or engineering, we all teach one way or another. And so by having the information and good solid curriculum, Project WET is able to go further. So I do want to also mention that it is an international program. We are in more than 70 countries now. And the focus of Project WET is to provide that supplemental information based on good curriculum. So it doesn't matter if you're a formal or a non-formal educator, you can take this information and know that it's solid and that it's effective for ages 5 through 18. And we should actually change that because we now have a new program that's curriculum based for pre-K. So we can go as early as 3 to 4 year olds and getting them excited about water and understanding how water is involved in their life. Next slide, please. So how do we do this? Well, simply by coming up with creative ways to introduce very complex ideas. If we think about water, it's not as simple as we have water, we don't have water. There's a lot of elements that make up water, and it impacts every aspect of our lives, whether it's political, fair, or if it's local issues. So the way we do this is by creating indoor or outdoor activities, and we want these to be interchangeable because being in North Dakota, we know it could be sunny today at 50 some odd degrees, and tomorrow we could have a snowstorm. And we shouldn't stop water education just simply because it's precipitated outside. So we take this information and we create fun ways because we all learn differently. Some students will learn better by doing hands-on and seeing the interactions and reactions, and some will do better by participating in information. So we try to make sure that we do several ways of teaching these very complex ideas when it comes to water. Just understanding what a watershed is simply and putting that into a visual basis does make a big difference in not only students understanding, but adults understanding as well. The other thing that we really focus on is that all of our educational tools are unbiased. We don't talk about, oh, this is the right way or this is the wrong way. We talk about what are the impacts. One of the programs I do, I talk about how farmers impact water storage. And I actually do get the students kind of riled up, you know, thinking, hey, farmers shouldn't be doing that. But then we talk about what farmers provide us on a day-to-day basis, and that water storage is important to providing the housing, the clothing, the food that they put on their table. All of a sudden their tune changes and they're supporting the farmers and what they're doing. So we really take a lot of pride in just presenting the issue, both sides of it, and allowing them to come to their own conclusion. And then of course, we promote water education, water education, water education in any form that we can possibly do it. Next slide, Lance. So our water festivals are our #1 programs that we have. And the way we make sure that these are successful is all of them are interactive. If you'll notice the young lady in the picture holding her arms out, she's actually representing a watershed. And we actually go through having her head be the headwaters of a watershed, her arms being the tributaries of a watershed, her body being the main stem of the watershed, all the way down to the mouth of the watershed. So by making it relatable and something that they can see visually, it makes it a lot more interactive. Multisensory, we talked about that, you know, not only talking about it, showing them how it works. Adaptable. I have on here adaptable to be indoor or outdoor settings. I also want to say adaptability to the age group. Of course, we're not going to be mentioning information to kindergartners that as we would high school students, but we need to make sure that they do get good quality education that they can relate to at wherever they are in this stage of life. And then of course, solution oriented. It's not enough just to give students information. We have to give them ideas or ways of understanding how they can take actions to make changes in the future, and that they have a say in how water is protected in their environment and their impact. Next page, please. And then of course, it has to be measurable. Very important. We do work with a lot of teachers, and they find that they have to justify having their students participate in several of our programs. And we want them to be able to justify how important it is. So we do make sure that all of our activities are measurable, and that we have a simple assessment tool to measure what the students learned or did not take away from the activity. And then of course, everything is scientifically accurate. Next slide, please. All right, this is just a brief picture of where water education is now. Anywhere that you see yellow is a part of Project WET and Project WET Foundation. So what started right here in North Dakota, Bismarck, North Dakota in the 1980s has a worldwide impact now. And they are using the same curriculum and the same programs in their own language in their own country that we use today. Next. So how do we do this? Well, we only have one person that does this job full time, which is myself. So we really do rely on a trickle down effect. What I do is I trained facilitators, and facilitators can be anybody that's interested in providing water education. And then we charge them with the responsibility of going out in the community and teaching other educators. And hopefully those educators share that information with their students. And we're hoping that the students share that information with the next year's students, and it just trickles down. Matter of fact, if we were to continue with this graph, you would see that we ask students to take this information back to the house, to their home, their family, whatever it may look like, in hopes that their family gets a better understanding of their impacts on our water. And hopefully they share that information with other community members, and the water education just continues to trickle down over generations. Next slide, please. So who are our Project WET users? Well, anybody, really anybody. If you read this list, I'm sure each one of you guys would fall into one of these categories. So anywhere from resource agencies to museums, school teachers, retirees, youth organization, all of them are impacted with water. All of them have an impact on water. So we encourage them all to participate in Project WET facilitators training or education programs. Next slide, please. So how do we do this? Well, one is using the Project WET Educator Guide, and we'll show a picture of that in the future. That's primarily our focus on getting the water curriculum out in the community. And we do that by holding workshops throughout the year. And we invite anybody that's interested to participate in one of these workshops. And then we certify them as facilitators and support their efforts in getting that information back in the community. We also hold an advance, it's a 4 graduate credit institute that we hold every summer, and we do it at a local college. Last year we held it in Wahpeton. And resource managers, teachers, or interested citizens can sign up for this institute, and then they can choose to complete this program for 4 graduate credits through UND, NDSU, Minot, and several of the other state schools. This is a very intense program. We do this all in 1 week. They start on a Sunday, they end on a Friday. It's very long and rigorous days, but it's an opportunity for them not to only understand the curriculum guides that we provide and how to get water education into their systems or their community, but we actually have them go out and do water testing and do the activities that we're asking the students so they have a better understanding of what information they're sharing with their students or their community. And then we offer other programs. And the other part that I want to say is we also supply. We provide supplies, curriculums, and resources. So communities and teachers, and I know a lot of people are doing homeschooling now and may be interested in getting more information about water. This is a place to come to, is the State Water Commission, and we can hook you up with water resources. And then lastly is online resources. Just like everybody says, this has been a very interesting year. And as I spoke earlier, our program is based on interactive programming and activities. And we can't do that if the students aren't in school or we can't social distance. So we have had to be very creative in providing other opportunities. And so I'm very excited that this January, we will be doing a short pilot program and coming up with unique ways of doing actual water festivals in the same communities that we have been doing them, but just in a different way. So look for more information on that coming out soon. Next slide. So like I said, water festivals are our #1 vehicle in which we get water education, but we don't stop there. We also do family and community events throughout the year. I know that in Dickinson, we do a 2-day water festival and a 1-night family education program where families can come out, learn more about water, enjoy water, and just get an understanding of what their student kind of went through for that day when they came to our water festival. Next question, or next slide, please. So here is just a brief view of some of the materials that are provided through Project WET. Of course, the activity guide. Some of you guys might actually already have an activity guide on your shelf and not even know where it came from. And that would be the red and white Project WET book. That was the guide 1.0. We have updated that guide and now we have the 2.0. The other popular curriculum booklet that we use is Discover Watershed, the Missouri. And this is a great hands-on understanding more about what watersheds are, how they impact each other's. And this is a good way of using this information with adults. This program is often used with teachers, college students, communities that just want more information. And then the third popular program that we do here in North Dakota is the Healthy Water and Healthy People. And what this is hands-on water quality testing and monitoring. And we use this at a high school level, and we encourage teachers to teach, how do you take turbidity? How do you do stream assessments? Understanding impacts of erosions, understanding regulations, understanding best management practices for farming, for industry, for roads. So all those are covered in that by understanding the various impacts and how do we measure these impacts? What does flow mean and why do we care? Next slide. All right, and then the fourth one is WOW, the Wonders of Wetlands Guide. I truly enjoy teaching this, and a lot of people are interested in this. As you know, North Dakota is known for their wetlands, their prairie potholes, or their sloughs. And we're losing those sloughs, those prairie potholes, and those wetlands at a rapid rate. Some of you may not know, at one time, North Dakota had over 2 million prairie potholes. Today, we have less than a million prairie potholes that store water, and that has had an impact on us. So this is a fun way of introducing those ideas through curriculum that can be taught not only at a school age level, but also a community or adult level. Next slide, please. One of the ways, if we can't get a student to a water festival for whatever reason, then we try to get that information out to the schools or into the students' hands. And one of the best ways to do that is through our Kids in Discovery series. So I call these kids magazines. And if you'll notice, these are just a few of the titles that we use here in North Dakota. And since Project WET did start here in North Dakota, you'll see a heavy influence of North Dakota in these kid magazines, which we're very proud of. And so if you're interested in knowing how to get your hands on some of these kids magazines, please reach out to me and I'll be glad to work out something and help you do that. Next slide. All right, so it doesn't just stop with Project WET. We do a lot of water resources development right here in State Water Commission. Some of the things that we do is like the Missouri River flyer that you can use. These are all located, by the way, on our website, the State Water Commission website. So by all means, please check out these publications. And if you're a hardback kind of person, let us know and we'll try to get this information to you. So some of the things that we do in-house and strictly for North Dakota is like the reference guide of North Dakota waters. That just gives the basic information about North Dakota, gives some statistics, looks at our different watersheds and the impacts. Also, the North Dakota Water Resource Map, you see that in front of you. That is included in our reference guide, but if you want one just to hang on your wall, this is the place to come. Give the State Water Commission a call and we'll be glad to mail one out to you. And then also, I would like to mention the Liquid Treasure Water History Trunk. As we know, there's going to be a presentation on the history of water, and we find that to be really important. We can't understand what the impacts are going to be tomorrow if we don't understand what the water impacts were of yesterday and the challenges of water. And so this is a great way to introduce information and the historical foundation of water to not only children, but also adults. So if you're interested in knowing more about that, once again, reach out and we'll be glad to help you with that. Next slide. All right, the other thing that's really important when it comes to doing water education here in North Dakota, knowing that 1 in 4 students registered in school in North Dakota participates in one of our education programs. And in order for us to do that, we do have to work closely with our state education system. So it's really important that we made sure that we were able to correlate all of our water education efforts to the standards that all teachers and school districts are having to be challenged with. And so this is just a brief sample of what our water standards are for each of our activity. This particular activity is the Incredible Journey, which takes students through the cycle of a water drop, whether it be in the clouds, in the ocean, precipitation, that kind of thing. So if you're interested in more information on that, Project WET does have that on their website. And each of the activities that I mentioned earlier have met the standards of these 3 programs. Next slide, please. Also, another great online resource. So they'll say you really want to check out this water education and what's available. One of the things that Project WET developed was Discoverwater.org. And this is probably one of my favorite programs. This is free. And the other beautiful thing is it's secure. So if your child or your student or your employee is checking this out, they don't have to worry about being inundated with advertisements or unwanted information. So each one of these are a hands-on activity that has, at the very end of the program, has a way to assess what the student learned. So if you get a chance, maybe over your lunch break, if you're eating it at your desk, check out discoverwater.org and look at these really cute way of presenting information that's very difficult. Don't forget to watch the videos that are included. Next slide, please. Okay, so this slide is blacked out and I don't know why, but that's okay. We can still talk about it. Every year we reach out to approximately over 30,000 students and adults in 1 year. So that's why this program is so important. It's grown leaps and bounds and we're continuing to grow. Like I said earlier, water festivals are our #1 source of getting information out. And for every block that you see on this black map, that represents a water festival. And so we're going to test your geography since I can't see the words on there. We have a water festival in Grand Forks that happens every spring. That is a 3-day water festival. And we reach over 800 students just in that one water festival. And I do need to mention that we don't just limit the water festivals to North Dakota. We recognize that students move with their families, or when they get older, they might move to North Dakota. So we invite those, the Minnesota side, we invite the Montana side, we invite the South Dakota side that can get to our water festivals. We invite them in to learn more about water education. So they're going to be good stewards in their own communities, wherever they may end up. So if we go down further, we have Fargo. Fargo is actually a week-long water festival that reaches over 2,000 students. And if anybody has gone to a water festival, they're basically based on this premises. We do 25-minute workshops or presentations introducing one idea of water, like what is a watershed, incredible journey, those kind of things. And then we rotate. And so think about having 2,000 students rotate through 20 stations in a week. It's pretty daunting, but if you ever watch it, it's just amazing how well this runs. We also have Water Festival in Wahpeton, Catherine, Bismarck, Mandan, Dickinson, Williston, Tioga, Minot, Botno, and Devil's Lake, or Fort Totten. We've also included Drake, Mayville, and Washburn. Washburn and Mayville were doing their kickoff this year, and unfortunately, due to COVID, they had to cancel their events, but we look forward to having them back on our schedule in 2021. So for the rest of for the rest of this year, which is 2021, most of our water festivals will be held virtually. And this is not necessarily a bad thing, although I really do enjoy getting out in the communities and being able to interact with the facilitators. I know they enjoy interacting with the students. This has forced us into looking a different way of educating and getting this information out to communities, and possibly to communities that we haven't reached in the past. So we are looking forward to developing this online program, as well as getting back to our old water festivals that we held in all the communities. Next slide, please. All right, so here is my basic information. I am right on time. If anybody does have a question, by all means, feel free to type it in now or reach out to me at 701-328-4833 or email me, and I'll be glad to answer your questions.
Hey, Tina, I see we have a question from Michael Gunsch.
Yeah, Tina, can you provide some background as you primary funding sources? Do you get any funding from the private entities as well?
Okay, so my primary budget is 40% federal funds.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 60% federal funds, 40% state funds. So I do solicit for EPA 319 funding every 2 years in order to put on this program. We do partner with a lot of different entities. Every one of the water festivals has to have somebody in each community that is our champion and willing to work with us to develop this. So for Dickinson, it's Southwest Water Authority. In Minot, it's Estivold. So there's a lot of different private, state, local entities that participate in this.
Okay, so you would have the opportunity if there was an entity that came in and said, we'd like you to put on some sort of program for us, that you would have the ability to do that or work with them.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Also want to say that if you're also looking at doing an adult program that we can offer for credit, I can also provide that as the professor of record.
Well, very cool. That is exciting stuff. It's made extra exciting by the fact that its birthplace is here in North Dakota. So that's fun and something that we should all be really proud of and help deliver. I suspect, Tina, that as you go to these areas, you'd welcome volunteers from the water resource boards and the rural water systems and so forth to help join those events and help deliver that programming to those festivals and to those curriculums. How would you like to manage that?
Volunteers are crucial to the success of these water festivals. When you're talking about moving a lot of young people around, and most of the water festivals are based from 3rd grade to 5th grade. So that's a lot of kids to move around in a very short period of time. If we didn't have volunteers to help with it, we would not be able to provide the programs to the standard of excellence that we are able to do today.
Well, I will volunteer our contact list. We have 200 and some folks registered for this event alone. And so we do touch a lot of people through water resource districts and water systems. And obviously all have a great passion for water. So I think they'd be glad to help deliver that education and get some more champions in our next generation. So thank you so much, Tina, for your presentation and comments. I'm gonna switch this over to Jack for the next introduction. Thank you so much, Tina.